Shida for the kind words of welcome, and my sincere thanks to Bismay ma'am for always the encouragement, support, and appreciation you show towards me, ma'am. Thank you so much. And I also thank NG University for giving me this opportunity that will come at the end. But I just want to start with a note of gratitude. So today's topic is basically technological advancement and social transformation. So I have this tendency to start from history because I feel that unless we know how the law and society has interacted from a historical perspective, we won't be able to understand how to face the challenges technology is going to bring us. Uh, Let me share my PPT. Ma'am, please let me know the PPT is visible to you, ma'am. Yes. So when we talk about technological advancement and social transformation,
Ma'am,
yes.
just a minute, ma'am. Ma'am, did you share the PPT?
Oh no, not yet, not yet. I just opened it in my computer. But is it visible now, ma'am?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes. Now it is visible. Yes, perfect.
Yeah. So when we talk about technological advancement and social transformation, we first need to understand that the relations between law and technology and society is very simple when we have a superficial or a cursory look at it. But a slight revealing or a slight in-depth analysis would reveal an exceedingly complex relationship which these three elements, which is closely linked to the humankind has. So at the most elementary level, we can say that technology is basically application of labor to create a product or to generate a service or otherwise to produce a desired result. And technology is always found to produce new results or new product. On the other hand, law is generally understood. I mean, if you ask any layman, what do you mean by law? They just have come up with this very simple definition, a rule to govern the society. So law is generally understood as a set of rules which is adopted by the society's governing institutions and that are applicable to all its subjects. So sometimes the subjects are citizens, sometimes it is international governmental organizations, sometimes it is states. Now, when we start how technology, society has interacted and what is the role of law, I think we need to understand the long history we all have, like from the evolution of Homo sapiens to the what we say the time where the Egyptian and the Abrahamic religions came out to the new age of World Wide Web or internet. Now, when we talk about the concept of technological advancement, we can always say that germination of science and technology made the humankind step into the pre-modern society. So you have the stone tools, fires, created words, which promoted social change. And traditionally, anthropologists categorize human evolution or human social evolution into four stages. The first one is the hunting gathering society, then the agrarian society, then the pastoral society, and the traditional societies or civilization. So we can very clearly see that the invention of the Stone Age made hunting and fishing possible. Artificial fires made people bid farewell to the darkness and expanded the capacity of time and space. Fire was not just for cooking. We need to understand that. Fire actually helped people to stay awake for a longer time to increase the productivity. And the wheels, which was initially found for grinding products, the moment we realized that it could be used for transportation, it changed the course of human society. And the creation of plows, that is like in the second stage when the agricultural society came into existence, the creation of plow. I would say, let us not narrow our view of technology just to digital technology. Technology started from the day one where a human being used a separate thing for doing something, that he used something. The moment you use something, you have a technology coming up. So the creation of the plow was the one of the biggest changes in the primitive society, which led to an agricultural society. Then we have the use of language, which allowed you to record and disseminate the knowledge. So traditionally, it has been it has been said that the domestication of plants and animals gave rise to the pastoral society, and weaving and handloom, the definition of that helped us in the extreme weather conditions. So it has been proposed that the three inventions that forever change the world are gunpowder, the nautical compass, and the printing press. And when we go further ahead in our presentation, we will be seeing how these three technological innovations change the world's thing. So we all these things are basically the technological changes which we were not able to understand. For example, brick making. We don't understand the relevance of it, but the first set of adobe houses, this is what allowed the people to settle down. And then we have the ships, the boats, the sailboats, which permitted us to expand our technology. One of the amazing technology of previous early civilization is this aqueduct in Machu Picchu. I mean, they have not yet been able to identify how Machu Picchu hills, like the top of the hill, was able to receive water from other hills. That aqueduct still remains a mystery to humankind. And then most of us have studied in our school days when we study Indian history and Harappan civilization. The drainage system in Harappan civilization was identified as one of the advanced drainage system, which is not available in most of the cities even now. Now, when these things happened and human beings started settling, you have the new set of problems. So settlement, still settling, when you are hunter-gatherer, you don't have a problem. You move from one side to another, you hunt, you gather, you eat, you continue. But the moment you start to settle down, you have issues with regard to, traditionally or conventionally, it has been identified as cattle, grains, and women. So the war, the tribal war or the social conflicts were always associated with these resources, which were supposed to belong to one tribe and another tribe asking for it. So essentially is social contract. All of us might have heard about the social contract. So the first question we need to ask from the part of law towards this technological, the technology which allowed human beings to settle down, was social contract the first response to these settlements? Because when you read into the history of social contract and other social contract and its explanations given by Hobbes, Locke, or Rousseau, so Hobbes have actually proposed that men are naturally try to get as much as they can for themselves. That is, to encroach, to escape the evils that arise from this mutual aggression. They make a compact to abstain from injuring from each other, and this compact constitutes what we call justice or law. So Hobbes, Locke, and Rousseau, all three of them, and Puffendorf, etc., they proposed that there was a state of nature which was existing. It could be happy or unhappy as per the theory. For example, Hobbes called state of nature as solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. And Locke called state in which the state of nature in which humans are free, equal, and independent. So it depends on the theorist who viewed state of nature. But then it is this social contract which gave rise to a primitive form of state or government, and again justifiability of laws. So Locke has said that civil societies are essentially incorporated for a certain purpose, that is to secure the rights of the individual better than they can be secured in a state of nature. So Hobbes, Locke, they both of them, they propose that this particular state is created for the protection of natural rights of each person, including their right to private property. However, this property right, their freedom, liberty, and right to property is beyond the state's control or the social contract theory. Rousseau had said that a genuine social contract, see, there was no written contract between the people. Okay, we need to understand and we need to remember this is a hypothetical contractual state which these jurists has proposed. So Rousseau states that a genuine social contract, people would receive in exchange for their independence a better kind of freedom, namely true political or republican liberty. Now, when the sovereign who has been given this contractual authority, whenever the sovereign violated these terms, then these sovereigns could be justifiably overthrown according to Rousseau. I'm not going in depth into theory, but most of you would be law students. So you need to understand that social contract itself dealt with the conflicts which may arise from the use of technology at that age and how human beings are settling. So this social contract, I mean the primitive societies, we can see the beginning of state and the beginning of a controlled regulatory mechanism. Now, as time changes, we need to understand that the state has increased its role. And starting with associations like household association or kinship groups, those who are into political science and economics will know how the state has changed its nature. And in all this, like in the traditional Machiavelli's Prince or Kautilya's Arthashastra or the Mukaddima or Confucius writing, state has been identified as a entity which provides basic public goods, and they are in control in the management and distribution of resources. So essentially, when a nomadic society settles down, you invariably would have conflicts with regard to the private property. So we can say that state was essential to justify this transition from res nullius to res commons to res persona. That means no one's property to a community property to a personal property. Because when we look into the theories of property, whichever theory you take, for example, the first occupation theory, they say that the person who first occupied is eligible to acquire that property. But that is actually saying that the powerful and the mightier one can bully a weaker person. So whoever is powerful to take the particular property first can occupy it. And this occupation is later approved, or sort of this occupation is later recognized and accepted by the state. So the state actually protects the private property, the transition from a res commons to a res persona. The state's active intervention is visible in every economic, commercial, and money-oriented or financial-related transactions. And then invariably, when we have property law, when we have commercial law, disputes are very often coming up. And thus, the dispute resolution and dispensation of justice also became an important role for the state to play. So in Leviathan, actually, Hobbes stated that life without an effective state to preserve order is solitary, poor, nasty, brutish, and short. So there are jurists who are proposing that the state has a very active role. So when we talk about state's active role, I just want you to go back to the previous slide, the last point, where the controlled regulatory mechanism is increasing. So the state is essentially vested with the role of controlling the interactions between human beings. So these interactions change when the technology change. These interactions change when the culture, when the morality, and when the ethics of people change. And technology remains a crucial factor in all these elements. Now, let us move into these categories of technology which had made an impact on human beings and the society. So one of the major technology which had a tremendous impact on the global pattern and the territories of individual states is maritime technology. Even though the first sailing vessel was found somewhere in Mesopotamia, you can see that Romans, Vikings, Arabs, etc., they used maritime relationship to increase the international trade relations. And the increased influence of the Roman system introduced a legal concept of quasi-contract and contracts in their relationship. So you can see that there is the Roman system spreading due to increased maritime technology means the spread of Roman legal system. And we know that the sailing has been instrumental in the development of civilization and cultures, which invariably led to the colonialization, imperialism, and spread of Catholic Church. What we need to understand here is that people were more prone to think in terms of contractual term rather than the social context. The trade was more important to them, and contractual relationship and the, what we say, uh, worldly economic relationships has taken a priority in due to maritime technology. And this is very visible when we talk about the colonialism from 1492 to, when we have a check on the timeline of colonialism, we can see that the number of countries or the number of independent territories becoming part of colonial power increases. So compared to that 14, like within 400 or 500 years, you can see the extent to which the colonialism has expanded. And colonialism essentially involved the large-scale transfer of laws and legal institutions from one society to another, and each of which had its own distinct socio-cultural organization and legal culture. So let us be very clear, if the maritime technology has not been developed, it would not have spread across the world like this. And this colonialism was initially justified by the colonial powers by saying that they are going to spread the civilizations, the civilized notions to the uncivilized states. So the civilized nation was basically Eurocentric, Catholic following states. So they essentially resulted, this spread of the Catholic Church essentially resulted in the replacement of an existing jurisprudence or a simultaneous existence of a dual legal system. So one for the colonized people and one for the colonizers. So you have this conflict between laws coming up due to a consequence of a technology. Now, again, the law became a tool for these imperial powers to control the colonies, which I'm not going to deal in detail with that, especially the tax law, land law. Now, what we need to understand is that this spread of a colonial law actually led to a creation of a new set of rules and regulations, replacing the morality of the colonies. One of the best examples we can take that is the Indian Penal Code, and even what we say, the personal laws of India. For example, bigamy, or what we say, the child marriage, etc. Most of these issues became, or what we say, same-sex relationship, etc., became a major wrong under the Indian Penal Code because of the biblical morality replacing the accepted Indian morality before colonization. Now we are used to the biblical morality or the colonialist morality, which had a set of principles and legal notions to follow. And the next technology which had a major impact on the society is printing press. So even though we can say that printing began in China and in the 9th century, the first mechanized printing was made possible by Gutenberg when he invented the printing press in 1439. And this invention has been identified as the key unlocking the modern age. And we can say that along with the colonialism, which is the result of improvement in maritime technology, without sailboats, they could not have reached all parts of the world like that. So along with the colonialism, you can see parallelly you have the printing press, which is which allows a mechanized copying of things. So this was crucial, and this played a major role in the spread of Catholicism in the continent, that is Europe and its colonies. And this printing press, actually, we all, some of you who might have studied IPR, may study that printing press was one of the reasons why copyright law became a major concern. But when you look into the impact of printing press on the society, from a cultural and economic perspective, you would be amazed how it led to one of the major social, cultural, and economic transition in world history, which resulted actually in the Reformation and the Renaissance, which was again focused in Europe. So what we need to remember here is that whenever a new information technology comes along, which including the printing press, among the very first groups to be loud in it are the people who were silenced in the earlier system, which means the radical voices. So here what we can see is that the printing press gave opportunity for a group of people who were not allowed to voice their opinion. In the modern time, we would see when it comes to Facebook and other social media platforms, you will see a lot of people making their voices heard, which might not have been possible in a previous technology. So coming back to the printing press, we have to understand it was not just the speed of reproduction or the copying that made printing press a big technology, but the accuracy with which the original data were copied. Before printing press, we had the oral history. We had the, like from the Indian context, we have the Shrutis and Smritis, which were basically narrated. Shruti was actually heard. You hear them and uh, you pass on to them to the next generation. So we all know a lot of things are lost in translation, but printing made it sure that those things are not lost in translation, and you have a much better accuracy from to the original writing. And this led to a widespread availability of literature, especially again the jurists and the thinkers which we just discussed earlier, Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, etc. So this reading all these thinkers, it led to an elevation of critical reasoning above custom and tradition, and it also encouraged people to question religious authority and prize their personal liberty. So for the first time, you are hearing something which is beyond the priest telling to you in the church or in any other religious meeting or a community meeting. You are able to read something which is beyond what is told you, and this essentially elevates the critical reasoning of an individual. So and on the other hand, it also introduced the world to the idea of machines stealing jobs from workers. Now, at that time, it was machines stealing jobs from workers. Now we are scared that artificial intelligence is going to steal our jobs, which is true. In both cases, it was true. So here we can see that the printing press, the technology as such, created a major change in the political condition in Tudor England. So what happened is that during Henry VIII's reign, he wanted to, he wanted to divorce his wife, Catherine, which is against Catholic principles, the sacrosanct concept of marriage. And he wanted to marry someone else, like which was against the Catholic principle. That was it. So Henry VIII wanted that divorce. And what happened is that Martin Luther, the Protestant movement leader, had also reached London in 1570. So in 1532, when Henry VIII wanted to challenge the authority of Pope, already the Protestant church had started taking its roots in London. And actually the Bishop Cranmer, who was the Archbishop of Canterbury, also was like a sort of a covert Protestant. He supported Henry VIII, and this led to a revolution against Catholicism in England. So when you have a revolution in England, we need to understand that it is going to impact all the colonies which are going to come under the British reign. So here, this Catholic revolution against the Catholicism was the trigger of the first modern privatization, where the king took away the property of the monasteries and handed over to the nobles. And this led to the creation of a powerful group of feudal lords. The dukes, the lords and the knights, all of them were created during this period. And this dissolution of the Catholic Church and the property held by Catholic Church consolidated his political power. And because the king was giving more and more land to the nobles, he got unwavering loyalty from the nobles also. However, the locals, the peasants, were still controlled by the Catholic Church. So the king found that to reduce the influence of the Catholic Church, the best way is to control the flow of printed information. So first set of printed documents were all Bible or Bible-related teachings. So for the first time, you are seeing the king creating a stationer's company, which most of you might have come across in your copyright studies if you have done that. King coming up with a stationer's company and the first set of censorship laws, where he says that whatever is being printed in England should go through stationer's company. Whatever is being published in England should be registered in the stationer's company. So one technology, the printing press technology, shows how the first set of censorship laws were introduced in a country. And this censorship laws continues till date. Even though it's not through stationers company, now we have the investigation agencies and enforcement agencies looking into what is being published on the social media platforms, what is being published in the newspaper, what can you forward from WhatsApp group, one WhatsApp group to next WhatsApp group. The number of forwards, like when you try to forward a message to a group, you have limitations on the number of groups which you can follow or forward it. So this is all basic censorship laws. All tussle between the government and the WhatsApp company is on censorship laws, because they want to know what is being passed and the companies are reluctant to hand it over. So you can see that printing press as a technology, as a basic technology for dissemination of information, how it changed the entire Europe, because it led to the successful conclusion of Renaissance, French Revolution, and Reformation. And moving on to the what we say the next stage where technology and society interact. This is basically done through the process of industrialization. So we need to understand that the emergence of machines based on inanimate power sources. So before that, we had to rely on horses, bullocks, donkeys, and mules for transportation. Now we have an inanimate power source such as steam, electricity, and coal, etc., which ushered in industrial society. So this mechanized production replaced the traditional manual manufacturing, and it freed the labor force. What would happen then? Again, there is a change in the social organization and social pattern. So this industrialization led to the rise of a middle class, and the collapse of the traditional and feudal societies was also the result of the industrialization. So industrialization, you can see that has come or led to the emergence of a new social and economic system, that is capitalism. Then we will go through, there are 4 industrial revolutions, and I think we should start with them. So the first industrial revolution is a period of global transition of human economy to efficient and stable manufacturing processes that succeeded the agricultural revolution. So before the industrial revolution, we had various agricultural revolutions. So the first industrial revolution was from the what we say 17th century, with the invention of, it is heralded with the invention of steam engine and the spinning jenny, that is a handloom weaving thing. The spinning jenny, these 2 technological inventions heralded the first industrial revolution. And the second industrial revolution began in the 19th century with the invention of electricity, oil, and gas. And the third revolution, which is much closer to us, it began in 1969 when new sources of energy, the renewable sources of energy, innovation of computer technology and semiconductor chips, and happened. Like that heralded the third revolution. And the fourth revolution began in the 2010s, like 4.0, with the automation and data exchange and rapid technical advancement as its features. So the first, the first industrial revolution essentially started in the Great Britain, and it began in 1760s with the developments in textile industry and the emergence of the factory system. So the use of water power and steam engine to mechanize process was the crucial factor behind the increased industrial activities. And this industrial revolution very noticeably brought about sweeping changes in economic and social organization. You can see a wider distribution of wealth and increased international trade from the 17th century. And this is the time when colonialism and imperialism has started its climb. So this trade, international trade and transaction among the colonies and these colonial powers was one of the crucial factors which was feeding or basing the industrial revolution. Now, the managerial hierarchies also were developed to oversee the division of labor. And this division of labor essentially resulted in a situation where people were not able to, able to find their survival or find their living expenses living in rural areas. So they were forced to migrate to cities. So here you can see the cities becoming, city starts to expand here, changing again the social pattern. The rural economy, the rural social structure will not be the structure which is available in the city. In India itself, when you look into the metropolitan cities, why do people go to metropolitan cities to work? Because it gives you better opportunities. Sometimes, not sometimes, most of the time, it takes you away from the limitations which you may face in a rural area. Now, another key development which was a major factor here was the development of a factory system. So factory system essentially means a system of manufacturing based on the concentration of industry into specialized and often large establishments. So in this factory system, what would happen is that men invariably are, what we say, as Hobbes said, they always want to make more, have more, make more, have more. That is a motto they have. And this, in most of the situations, would lead to exploitation of the laborers. So the first industrial revolution came up with a new set of challenges for the law to solve all labor issues. So this related to the number of working hours each of the laborer had to spend in the factory, then employment of the human resources. There was no limit, like, there was no uh, law providing or preventing people from being engaged in these factory systems. So you could employ men, women, and children. So the child labor and the exploitation of the women laborers became a key labor concern during the first industrial revolution, and the inhuman conditions which were provided by this factory system. Those who have seen the Charlie Chaplin movie would know how the industrialization has affected the human beings, especially the laborers. And these workers, you can see that once you are oppressed, you always have that intrinsic urge to oppose that. So they started, workers and the laborers started fighting against this, this suppressing labor culture, and they wanted to win improved conditions and wages through labor unions. And the establishment of labor unions helped the helped in the establishment of laws which would protect workers. So these labor laws regulating the work hour for the employees, minimum wages payment, trade unionism, compensation, and other workmen benefits. Factories Act 1833 in UK is one of the earliest act which related to labor rights. So the first industrial revolution with its technology beginning the technologies of steam engine and spinning machine called spinning jenny was the two technology which pushed forward the industrial revolution, and this made the industrial revolution expand across the globe, creating a new set of challenges for the law, that was labor related law. So you can see the social transformation happening. The feudal lords, the feudal serfs and peasants, the feudal, the concept of serfdom is coming to an end. People are given a chance to improve their living style or their living conditions. And industrialization made them realize that, along with the issues it brought into it. Then we have the second industrial revolution, which is basically the it was mostly into application of science to mass production and manufacturing. So you can see the increased industrialization due to the use of iron, steel, electrification, machine tools, paper making, petroleum, chemical, rubber industries, etc. Improvement in the automobile sector, including maritime technology. Bicycles became common. People could travel easily. You have automobiles coming up, railway lines coming up, ships, and again, aeroplanes coming up in as a development in technology. Increase in the applied science, especially fertilizers and other things. Applied science became more important. Then the technological innovations in engines and turbines, telecommunications, that is telegraph, telephone, and modern business management methods. So you can see if the first industrial revolution was all about creating factory systems, second industrial revolution is about application of science to mass production and manufacturing. So the, like what we say, you just need to look at yourself. The invention of a sewing machine or the harvesting machine, steamboat, typewriter, the QWERTY typing board which we have, all this is the result of second industrial revolution. So the global humanity compared to the first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution had a more global impact, where the global humanity developed on the basis of science. And this led to further controls and interventions by the state through regulatory measures. So till there were no automobiles, there was no need for traffic laws. Till there were no telephone and telegram, there was no need for telecommunication related regulations. There was no need for electricity related regulations until it was invented. So essentially, the more the technology the people started using, the more the state started to intervene. So this global nature of activities led to global issues and essentially the conflicts. So we can see that the two world wars which the world went through and the related international political movement was all the result of second industrial revolution, because you suddenly have wealth which is created much quickly, money which is created much quickly through international trade, and the manufacturing which has increased in a high manner due to the application of science. So here what we can see is that this creation of this particular background, this situation resulted in global polarizations where powers started coming together. I have always felt that our humanities is all about proving either Marx right or Marx is wrong. So that oppression which was prevalent in the first industrial revolution continued to the second industrial revolution, and people were not concerned with the religious morality and the religious ethics which prevented them from reacting to it. So their reactions led to revolts, conflicts, and essentially to wars which involved multiple nations. So the two world wars and the related international political movements has a heavy influence of the second industrial revolution. So the more and more states coming up, more and more colonial powers coming up, more and more maritime routes opening up. You need to know how a ship whether it can enter your territorial waters or not. If your colonial agency is creating a particular railway line, who can use it? There are so many issues which are coming up with the actual implementation of the technology. So it meant that you had to think beyond the traditional concept of social contract state, where the state had intervened in certain set of institutions. Now you are getting more international actors. Companies are coming up, incorporations are coming up, new non-state actors like MNCs are coming up. So these companies having presence in multiple countries required a creation of a legal system which would help the relationship between them. So the public international law, which traditionally had the role of governing the relationship between two states, had to expand to include international government organizations and individuals. So the notable creations during this particular period is, globally, one was the League of Nations, which had failed, then which led to the Second World War. And we had the United Nations, which was a result of the Second World War, along with the GATT 1947, the provisional agreement which tried to control the international trade relations, and the setting up of PCIJ and ICJ, which was looking into the international settlement of disputes. So this changing nature of global relationship now require the change in the structure of the dispute settlement mechanism. And this also led to a condition where you need a standardized and uniform system of protection. This is more clear when it comes to international trade, intellectual property rights, etc. So the second industrial revolution mandated that there should be a standardization of law in almost all sectors of life. Because once you don't have that uniformity or standardization, one country could be at a disadvantage of another country. So you can see a lot of international instruments coming up during this period. Human rights laws, which focused either on basic human rights laws, but such as the UDHR or ICCPR or ICSPR, etc. You have the CEDAW coming up. You have the International Child Convention coming up. So these vulnerables are being protected now under the international legal system. And the social reformation was also a very prominent movement in the 18th, 19th, and 20th century. So we can see, for example, slavery, which was a very common practice in most of the European countries and America, was identified as something which is unjust and unethical. So there were efforts to prohibit slavery. And when we take our own country, we have the caste system and untouchability and the prohibition of sati and encouragement of widow remarriages, etc. These laws of social reformation was also being implemented at the domestic level. So what we need to have is a comprehensive view of things. Like on one side, technology is heralding industrial revolution. On the other side, the political and social relations are changing. The global changes are changing the role of the conventional state, and the social reformation, which is the result of these two, is creating a new social pattern. And when we look into the colonial powers, 20th century is the time when most of the colonial powers declined. This was basically due to the Great Depression, which began in USA and spread all over the Western states, and the impact of Second World War. So you can see that the lack of money actually led to the decline of the colonial powers, and they were forced to give independence to most of their colonial territories. And this freedom of these colonial territories led to the rise of new nation states. So if you look from 1940s to 1970s, you will see a lot of new states coming into existence. For example, the British territory of India was itself divided into 3 countries. So these new nation states came up with a mistrust towards the colonial powers. So the mistrust is not displaced. We can say that the mistrust and that they were quite wary of the colonial powers. And there is nothing wrong in that, because for last 3 or 4 centuries, these colonial powers had rampantly exploited their natural resources. So most of these independent nations are beginning with poverty. You can look into our condition itself. When we were independent, we had problems with access to, we did not have health security, we did not have food security, we did not have shelters, and our population was on rise, and poverty was also on the rise. So these new nation states started a new system where they wanted to claim a sovereignty over their natural resources. This meant that they don't want the intervention of any other state in their domestic matters. So at that time, colonial powers did not have a problem with that, because most of these nations were in the process of rebuilding themselves, because the Second World War actually emptied their coffers and they did not have adequate money to come up. So this decline of these colonial powers led to this establishment of a permanent sovereignty over natural resources. So suddenly the concept of sovereignty is gaining more prominence, the sacrosanct territory of a state gaining more prominence, etc. And the new constitutions around the globe of these new nations started recognizing these previously internationally standardized basic human rights into their constitutions and their legal systems. So this new set of domestic laws and judicial approaches had to solve the fresh set of challenges which were raised by the technology, because digitization began towards the end of second industrial revolution. So this digitization, the invention of computers and other things, took things beyond traditional tangible notions which were previously understood and governed by the state. And you know the problem of digitization. Digitization doesn't respect boundaries. So this actually raised challenges to the traditional concepts of sovereignty also. and identifying the changing technology and its impact on society. You can see most of the judicial systems across the world also starting to change their approach in the dispute settlement mechanism. You can see an increase in the sociological jurisprudence, an increase in the expansion of American realism to most of these territories. Even if they were common law countries, you can see that there was judges who were actually considering the society and taking a decision accordingly. So most of these areas related to labor rights, consumer welfare, environmental protection, and other vulnerable rights. So these, like, with the new regulations, international regulations and standards and requirements in place, and the for the domestic implementation of them, the judiciary had to think beyond its traditional conventional role. And then, the second industrial revolution very closely followed into the what we say very it was that change was very smooth. From the second to the third industrial revolution, the change was very smooth. You can see that the third industrial revolution, which is also known as a digital revolution, saw a shift from mechanical and analogous electronic technologies from the industrial revolution towards the digital electronics. So what happened here is that, uh, like, it began in the 1970s, exactly in the 1969. We'll go through the quick timeline of this revolution. Beginning with the 1970s, with the adoption and proliferation of digital computers and digital record keeping, it created a new set of challenges for law. And this, even though we are in the fourth industrial revolution, the challenges raised by the third industrial revolution is not yet solved by our legal systems and our judiciary. So the third industrial revolution has majorly been called 5 pillars. The first one is changing to green technology, that is renewable technology, energy like solar, wind, geothermal, etc. Then the hydrogen and other technologies for storing the energies. Then the buildings that generate power, like what we say, the building itself, like that is a future which the third industrial revolution talks about. They are capable of generating its own power. One of such example is what we say the Cochin International Airport, which is powered on its own solar energy, and the technology for smart grids. So this smart grids or intergrids will change low electricity and it can send it to homes and businesses. So basically, you are going to have millions or homes and offices and even factories to be built on positive power plants. So they capture the local renewable energy and then they build on that. And then you have the plug-in effect, that is electric, hybrid and fuel cell powered vehicles. Basically, the e-vehicles which we have, hybrid, and the solar vehicles which we can see is increasing more on the road. So I just want you to draw your attention to these 5 pillars which have been identified by many studies. All 5 of them relate to the technology relating to power or what we say energy. So the first industrial revolution relied on steam energy. Second industrial revolution relied on electricity, petroleum, and gas. And the third revolution is focusing more on to green energy. And the fourth revolution is not focusing on green energy or this alternate energy. That is why we have a parallel third industrial revolution and a fourth revolution running in our at our time, at the present time now. So quick timeline of the third revolution. If you look into this timeline, it's very interesting. So the first internet communication began in 1969 with the Advanced Research Projects Agency network of the US Department of Defense. It created a lot of protocols and it is still used by internet communication by the Defense Department. And in 1972, a Japanese Waseda University actually created the first humanoid robot in the world. The age of robotics began in 1972. And in 1973, we have the Ethernet. uh, the first way of for computer system to share information. The basic networking which we have right now, it began with the Ethernet, and that was the first time computer systems were available to or were able to share their information. In 1974, you have the first ISP, Internet Service Provider, available by Telenet makes, and it was a commercial version of this APARNet, that is Advanced Research Projects Agency Network. Then in 1983, you can see that there is a standardized Ethernet and the DNS, which gives websites their names like .edu, .gov, .com, .org, and .net was started. It started in 1983. And in 1984, for the first time, a person wrote a novel called Neuromancer in cyberspace. So for the first time, you have a cyberspace or the cloud space coming in. I just want you to understand how each of these development is creating a new challenge for the law to deal with. Then you have in 1986 personal computers coming in. 1989 saw the creation of HTML language, which caused the www dot possible. Then we have the first Internet of Thing device. Over the internet, you could actually switch on and switch off a toaster. So the first time you have this Internet of Things or the IoT coming into picture. Then we have in 1991, Tim Berners-Lee making the first web page. So look into it. Each of them, the first one is of course defense, that might be confidential. You have a humanoid robot coming into the world. You don't have a law for robots. You have an Ethernet way of sharing information. Information is shared digitally. No one can see what is being shared. No one can control what is being shared because the sharing is done in tangible manner. Then you have domain names and cyberspace coming up. What someone does in cyberspace was totally out of control for the law. Personal computers. I have a personal computer in my home. I have a personal computer in my office, and I'm sharing the information between these computers and to a personal computer of my friend. Who knows what is going to be shared? And HTML language. One of the major problems which law finds when it comes to internet is finding the person behind the particular activity. So it continued in 1992. You can see that first audio and video files were sent over the internet. And in 1993, both the White House and the United Nations went online. In 1995, Amazon, Craigslist, and eBay went live. That means internet is now a source of business, creating an entirely new set of challenge for the law. You have e-purchase, you have e-contract, e-payment, you have disputes which are created with an unknown person somewhere in the world by a business website. You don't have a law to deal with that. And then in 1977, you have the wireless technology used in industrial settings. In 1998, the bane of everything came out. Google search engine comes out, and it became a search engine which gives you information at your fingertips. And in industrial settings, Ethernet is becoming more popular. So you are all familiar with these things. The moment you open your computer settings, all of them comes into picture. So in 1999, Kevin Ashton came up with the term of Internet of Things. That means things which are associated with internet. This also showed where we are going to be affected. So in 2000, you can see the first time there is an attack on the internet. That was basically Yahoo and eBay. I think all, like, in my generation, the 1980s born, our first email ID was Rediff Mail and Yahoo Mail. And to get a Gmail ID, which was more popular by 2004-5, we had to get an invitation. So if you have a Gmail ID, I needed an invitation from you to join my email ID. So I still remember my friend who gave me an invitation to start my Gmail ID. So, I mean, at that time, it was so, the application was limited, but the impact was huge. So people were mostly into email and what we say, the electronic business, the digital business, when Yahoo and eBay was attacked by a group of hackers. The DDoS attack was an eye-opener to people to understand how vulnerable the internet is. And then cloud technology became popular. So the question was, the state can protect your storage if it is in a tangible form, if it is something the state could protect. But if you're storing it in the cloud, how is the state supposed to protect it? So the activities or the challenges of the state are rising, especially in the third industrial revolution. And the big data, the big problem came up in 2005, because for the first time you have this cluster of data which is being collected from a large group of informants, and you have to protect that particular big data. One of the major concerns when we all had to register for Aadhaar was basically this: who will protect the big data which is created by the Aadhaar process? Now, in considering that there are so much of issues, in 2008, you can see that an IPSO alliance coming up to promote the use of internet protocol. So you have this internet protocol, which allowed you, which permitted you, and which regulated you to use internet at your personal computer and at the Ethernet services. And it was again in 2008, the next challenge for the law came up with Satoshi Nakamoto's paper. Bitcoin comes into the world, and it introduced the new technology of blockchain. So this was a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, and the cryptocurrency is like, something, to call it as a currency is also wrong. Actually, currency is a legal tender, but it was a transaction, a unit of financial transaction. So I have cryptocurrency, which is I made through blockchain, and you have cryptocurrency, or you have the block to be changed. So I give my cryptocurrency to you, and it is registered in a crypto register. No one has any tangible evidence of this transaction, but it is still one of the major methods. I think El Salvador is the only country which has recognized cryptocurrency as a legal tender, as its currency. Now, according to Cisco, between 2008 and 2009, more things and objects were connected to the internet than to people. I mean, you can look into the Amazon. When you want to purchase something, rather than you selecting the size, Amazon will tell you, based on your previous purchases, this will give you this is your correct size. So you have more things and objects connected to the internet than to the people by 2008, 2009. So technologically, digitization and the internet was making huge impact on the humanity. Parallelly, we had concerning legal developments also. One of the major issue was, or major, some of us still call it an issue, it's wrong to say that. One of the major development was the World Trade Organization in 1995. So this was a result of Uruguay round, which began in 1986 and culminated in the Marrakesh Treaty establishing World Trade Organization. So this treaty is a global treaty which covered all aspects of domestic regulations, specifically those relating to economy and markets. So all your laws, all your sectors, previously GATT 1947, which was a provisional agreement, only touched upon the goods. But with WTO, you have service industry affected by it. You have the competition law affected by it. You have the agriculture subsidies, etc., affected by it. So basically, it covered all aspects of our economy and our market, and the members were mandatorily to comply with its provisions. So this compliance to the WTO agreements, which was mandatory regardless of your development status. Only the least developed countries are given time till 2033 or something to make their laws comply with WTO. All developing countries had to comply with the WTO law by 2005. So this WTO, or like this organization with 164 member parties, led to an unprecedented standardization of domestic laws, mainly relating to competition, subsidies, technical and non-technical barriers to trade, tariffs, service industry, intellectual property laws, all and every element of a state's economic transaction was brought under the law of WTO. And this, what we say, this unprecedented standardization itself was creating a lot of anxiety in the general public. And along with it, the complex nature of the third industrial revolution threw more challenges to the domestic law. On one hand, you have the WTO compliance to manage. On the other hand, you have the new technical challenges you need to manage. And the society is actually at that stage, we can say that the society is in a great run where you don't know where you need to put your stability. Where is your stability in that? There is too much of tumultuousness in the social system, in the legal system, and the states were forced to think beyond their local interest and conform to international standards in all its activities. So even though we spoke a lot about the technological impact of second industrial revolution, we need to accept that there was a lot of socio-economic inequities also, which was the result of second industrial revolution. So those inequities, those disparity, those dissatisfaction was also haunting the newly independent nations. On one hand, you don't trust the governments which are coming up. On the other hand, on one hand, you don't trust the Western and the powerful developed nations, which is coming up with this WTO principle. On the other hand, you don't have an option other than becoming a part of it. But you know that once you jump into it, a return is impossible and it is going to affect your sovereignty. Every international law, being an international law student, I would say every international legal instrument is a compromise on its state's territorial sovereignty. You actually compromise your lawmaking capacity, you compromise the movement of your citizens, you compromise the welfare measures you are providing for your citizens. So basically, this, these inequities were also affecting the newly independent nations. And the challenges raised in the administration of justice, especially in the context of IPR, international IPR, cryptocurrency, and blockchain technology, also created a lot of issues for the states to manage. So you can see, like if you take Indian context, you can see a lot of laws being changed, amended, and brought in during the period from 1995 to 2005. MRTP was replaced by Competition Act. Companies Law 1956 was replaced by Companies Act 2013. You have the FERA replaced by FEMA. All intellectual property laws changed according to the WTO norms. So you can see that there are a lot of new laws coming up and being implemented during this period. And the question actually is whether the society was able to cope up with those changes. So this, in a very common language, we always call it as a generation gap. It is not actually the generation gap. It is actually the difficulty an existing society finds to adjust to a newer technology or a newer morality which is coming into existence. So when we look into the third industrial revolution, we can see that it is basically a combination of and a synergy between technology, and it's mostly about the machines themselves. It has affected almost every element of the society. Immediate impact can be seen in the development of advanced technology and the explosion of knowledge. The teachers who are part of this program, the students who are part of this program, we know how knowledge has exploded. You want to know something, you immediately check. For example, the whole presentation which I have been preparing for, I just took the information from the whole internet availability of materials for me. I just needed to read all the original text and the interpretations on that. So I did not go to from library to library, because the knowledge is at my fingertips. I need an internet connection, I need a screen, and I can find my knowledge. So this actually requires a non-conventional set of legal solutions. And while this is being happened, you also need to understand the political impact of WTO. You have the neoliberalism and privatization, which has restricted the scope of intervention by the state. So the social contract envisaged in the intervening state, the social contract envisaged liberty protecting state has changed in the context of neoliberalism and privatization. state has a very limited scope when it comes to intervening in the activities which relate to the third industrial revolution. So major concern at this point for a state is how do you apply the conventional laws to an entity which is beyond national territories. So when you look into these cases relating to Google or Walmart or Amazon, the judicial systems are actually struggling to find a mutually agreeable jurisdictional terms, because the traditional legal systems have functioned on the principle of jurisdiction. You have the territorial jurisdiction and you have the extraterritorial jurisdiction, but the digital plane is something beyond this. Who knows what I'm sending from my email to someone else's email? So, and it doesn't mean that, like, the restriction is not in such a way that I can only send an email to someone in India. I can go beyond India. I can send it to multiple nations. So, and this is like, this is an unconventional problem which the society had created, or the unconventional situation which the society has reached, and the law has to address it. So then the question is, why doesn't the state intervene and regulate it? That creates next set of problem. That is privacy. It can affect the privacy, or changing nature of employment, big data, algorithms and platforms to be regulated. So basically the innovative application of decades of developments in ICT, that is information and communication technology and artificial intelligence, are connected to the internet, and these new materials are very difficult to control. Add to it the new, not the new, I mean, it's now the day-to-day practice. Add to it nanotechnology. So the ability of the state to intervene, or the traditional state censorship laws, which began with the printing press in 1439 or the 1533 with Henry VIII, those traditional state censorship laws and regulations cannot address these issues. So you have a cyber security regulatory framework coming up. You have the technological solutions to problems rooted in technology. So we have almost all domestic jurisdictions have IT acts, cyber security policies, and you can see that there is a concentrated effort to train a conscious judiciary to understand these issues, because it was very clear for the state that its traditional methods of intervening is not going to help any issues which is created by the transformation of the third industrial revolution. And parallel to third industrial revolution, we have the fourth industrial revolution, that is characterized by the application of information and communication technology, and is also known as Industry 4.0. Most of the management schools are keen on tapping the opportunities of IR 4.0, and this is actually built on the developments of the third industrial revolution. So here, what we can see is that in the fourth industrial revolution production system, the connections, the communication systems that already have a computer technology are now being expanded by a network connection, and they have a digital twin on the internet. So you have a tangible transaction taking place in normal situation and a digital twin on the internet. And this also allows, the fourth industrial allows communication with other facilities and the output of information about themselves. This is a production, or this is what is known as the process of automation. And the networking, previously we could get computerized bills in those, I don't know, those who have booked train tickets would know how the entire system has changed. While I was traveling frequently to Delhi in 2006 to 2012, those years, my house is from a very semi-rural area, and we had a small railway station there called Vadakanjeri railway station, and it had 5 seats in Kerala Express. And this railway station was not computerized. So even if you go the day before, there is a high chance that you will get a ticket from that particular station. There were 5 seats which were reserved for that particular station. That was somewhere from the 1950s due to the IAS officers who were having their traditional homes at the locality. After a couple of years, the station got computerized, and those 5 small tickets which we used to get is now no more. And now we need to go to the IRCTC website and we have to book, and it depends on luck to get a ticket or not. So that networking, which was previously done physically, became part of computer, because at one point previously those were actually small slips of thick paper, which later became a computerized paper. Now that station is under the network of railway stations. So this has actually created to a cyber physical production system. So you have smart factories in which production system, component and people communicate via a network, and production is nearly autonomous. So the challenge or the question which the printing press created, will it result in the loss of job? Yes, it is resulting in the loss of job. So what is the problem in that? Because everything is becoming easier. Why should the law be concerned about it? The law is majorly concerned because it cannot fix the liability. And this becomes more, more aware and more conscious in the context of artificial intelligence. So we need to know that the technological and commercial advances bring new compliance challenges. And this is essentially going to be affect the human rights. So the accepted notions of right to work, accepted rights at work, that means all your benefits, all your welfare system, rights to social protection, and also the right of the state to protect, respect, and ensure the above rights to the citizens is now compromised. And this is one reason where artificial intelligence becomes a major concern for most of the legal systems. So when you look how law has always affected, or how law has always interacted with the new challenges coming up, you can see that it fixes the liability to a particular group. So even when it recognized incorporations as a legal person, it accepted that because there was a director board which could be revealed by lifting the corporate veil. Or if you have a deity, you have a trustee, or you have a society behind that particular legal person. Let us say law is quite dynamic, because whenever it has faced the challenge, whenever a new problem has come up, law has found some way to deal with that challenge. But when it comes to artificial intelligence, at this point of time, many jurisdictions are quite concerned on how to reach a compromise. So this impact of artificial intelligence is not just the automated software tools, but we have the automated vehicles and lethal autonomous weapons, which create the challenge of to whom would you create an liability? Because as per the accepted notions of law, only a legal person can have the rights. Only a legal person is responsible for liabilities. But AI has not been vested with any such sort of legal personality. So, I mean, AI is the buzzword now. Whichever conference you go to, whichever talk you go to, everything is about AI. But I always find that there is only a single question that is to be solved when it comes to artificial intelligence, that is to identify the legal personality of AI. The moment you identify the legal personality of AI, most of the challenges which artificial intelligence creates can be sorted out. So as of now, the law goes with the conditioning that the AI is the person who generated the AI is responsible. This is okay as long as it is a weak AI. But when the AI becomes more advanced, when the AI becomes more the big data allows it to learn more, when it is a deeper AI, this is going to create a problem, because AI is going to take its own decisions. AI is going to take its own actions. So this machine generated works and the results of this deep learning by these machines would make implementation of the conventional laws which were created for tangible entities beyond becoming very difficult to deal with the situation. So I know this is only 1.5 hour class, but I have tried to cover briefly cover how technology, society, and law has interacted. And in this context, I would say we have so many questions to ask. And these are the challenges which the law is going to face in every phase. It has faced throughout its evolution, And this is going to be the questions which are going to be raised in the context also. How does the rule of law and the traditional ideals of legality, legal coherence, respect for legal liberty, human rights, and human dignity associate in the context of technological changes? And what is the future for the roles of criminal law, torts, property, and contract law in the context of technological development, especially artificial intelligence? Are they likely to be rendered redundant? Because it's not physical entities which are going to interact. And the absence of physical entities would create implementation issues when it comes to personal laws, offense against state and property and contractual laws. Then if that is the situation, how is the state going to protect human informational interest without challenging the privacy of its individuals? Again, can traditional rules of law survive, not only with the emergent use of technological management, but the risk management mentality that pervades the collective engagement with new technologies? You look into the social media, it's a collective engagement. Someone makes a particular statement and you have a collective engagement with that particular statement. The next question is, even if we effectively manage it, are the people ready to go to be ruled or ruled by a situation where technology is going to be supreme? These are the questions law has to follow and answer in it the coming days. So coming to my conclusion, I would like to say that, like, when it comes to technology and society, the government or the state has always faced complex, multifaceted issues. And in this context, it is only the what we say. Sorry, this was the slide. So in this context where it is very complex and multifaceted, the effort should be on trying to make law consistent rather than just responsive. So even though our national legal system is flexible and capable of making quick changes, it has been baffled, though temporarily, by the social and legal consequences of the rapid adoption of new technology. So incorporating AI to the conventional legal system and regulatory framework is going to be a major jurisprudential issue, and AI as an owner, creator, etc., and the recognition of rights and liabilities in that context is going to be a main problem. So the future of internet is going to be future of internet is going to keep more power in its users. As of now, you read what I am showing you, but a next stage in the internet will be where you are able to create. So while you are in a read mode, your capacity to make changes, to edit, is different from the create mode. So when it is in a create mode, law will have to identify ways to check this, and this would invariably violate the privacy laws, because then the state is going to intervene into my privacy where I am creating something on the internet. So the pragmatic approach would be a significant, on self-regulation and other market-based solutions. However, we all know that it is very difficult for self-regulation, especially in a context where the technologies are changing quickly. And in this context, we need to say that, see, the law cannot predict what is the future. There is no question about it. But even in doing so, with respect to the information of technologies and their future is highly dependent on three factors. And these three factors actually add more confusion to this whole concept. So the first is the dependence of so many technologies on each other, meaning that one technological change can have ripple effects on the other technology, creating a new issue for the state. So my Google Meet compatibility with my Microsoft Word would have an impact on another program in a very common, simple sense. But when it comes to deeper technological interdependence, a change in one technology can create issues in other areas also. The second is, you cannot say whether a technology is going to be successful or not. The society decides whether the technology is going to be successful or not. Those who have been not the younger, like those who have been born in the 2000s, those who were born in the 1990s would have heard about the concept of pager. Before mobile phones came, we had this concept of pager. Now no one is using pager because it did not become successful. Or also, in between smartphones and laptops, you had this tablets. Tablets also didn't become as popular it should have been, because the society was more comfortable with a smartphone which is easy to handle and a laptop which is comfortable to handle. So in between, the tab somehow was not accepted by the society. And the third is the rate of change that technology can create or technology can unleash would be unpredictable, because we don't know how that particular technology is going to change. For example, when ChatGPT came, no one was aware how it is going to affect the entire system. Now you have children writing essays and assignments using ChatGPT. Luckily, you have the digital technological solution to it. You keep it in an anti-plagiarism software. It will show you what is AI generated material. So here, what means is that the public actors are to collaborate with affected private sector to identify the potential risk and encourage viable solutions that represent the public interest. And the traditional function of, we need to remember that without state and without its essential role as the lawmaker and law enforcer, the changes which are brought in by technology will be difficult to handle. So what we need would be a technology neutral, non-discriminatory and flexible laws that could control the economic and social relations in the context of internet. And it would also require a greater international dialogue, because if UK is recognizing AI as a personality, invariably all other countries, common law countries, will also accept it. So greater international dialogue and the harmonization of online regulatory efforts is also required to control the inconsistencies and contradictions that technology would bring into the society. But keeping in mind, again, we are here because of the advancement in technology. So it's not wrong to say that technology is something which could protect you and which could bring you out of your homes and coming, like, give you opportunities. This meeting, this class is the result of technology. Who thought before COVID that we will be taking classes like this? We could not believe a class without a classroom teacher, students being physically present. Now, all of us prefer online classes because you can listen to the class in the comfort of the home. You can take the class at the comfort of the home. So, I mean, this was when it was showed in James Bond movies. We never thought that it is going to be the reality. When James Bond movies showed the automated weapons or the automated vehicles or the Moonraker, even as funny it was, we never knew that we are going to have that sort of vehicles in our life. So technology has brought in a lot of positive changes, and along with it, it has also brought a lot of challenges to the legal system. So with that, I come to the end of this presentation. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Kavitha, ma'am.
Yes.
Quickly, if just let me look at the chat box.
So I did not even, because I kept the Microsoft Word off, open. I didn't even open my name.
Actually, all of us are spellbound with your lecture, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Just there's one question that's from Blessing. Work from home includes in third industrial revolution.
Yes, sort of, ma'am. Because fourth generation is more about automation, where my hologram would be sitting here and taking class to your holograms.
Any other quick questions would you like to ask?
Any questions? Thank you, everyone, for the thank yous. But are there any questions?
Good evening, ma'am. Myself, Stella Joyce from Baroda. Ma'am, my question is like how AI is applicable when you said about the liability part. How is it applicable when it comes to the civil laws and torts?
So, that is a problem. It doesn't have a personality.
Yeah.
That is the challenge the law faces. Because As of now, we don't have a problem. We can fix the person who generated the particular program to
Yes,
be
ma'am.
responsible for the action of the program.
Yes, ma'am.
But I mean, that is entirely a different class.
Hmm.
But if an AI is capable of taking a decision, which it is taking these days. So,
Hmm.
for example, you have AI as directors in the companies.
Hmm.
And usually, when the director makes a wrong choice, he's responsible.
Yes, ma'am.
In the context of AI, how will you make the AI responsible for a company's liquidation?
Yeah.
What will you do? AI doesn't have any personal property. You cannot imprison a property. So there have been situations where legal systems have accepted incorporations, but we could lift the veil. So one of the major thought is that you could identify a principle called piercing the veil, because
Okay.
software needs to be pierced
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
to see who is behind the software veil and make that person responsible.
Yes.
But again, that is like, you just open Adobe for the first time, you will see hundreds of name acid software developers. Where will you
Yes.
fix the responsibility?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yes, ma'am.
you need to create a situation where AI has some sort of personality.
Hmm.
That is what many people say. So a couple of copyright officers have recognized joint authorship, joint ownership, joint inventorship, etc.
Okay.
So
Okay.
another, like, big data is a major problem, because the more data the AI gets, the
Yes.
more it improves its decision making capacity. And at
Yes.
one point of time, it would be out of our control also.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Like, ma'am, upon this, yeah, please continue,
No,
ma'am.
actually, when I saw James Bond, I didn't believe James Bond. And when I saw computers controlling us, Matrix, I didn't believe Matrix. But James Bond becoming a reality, Matrix could also become a reality. That is a scare I have. Yes.
Ma'am, there is one robo, Sophie, the
Yeah,
humanoid.
Sophie.
Yeah,
Ouch.
Sophie.
The
So,
first humanoid which was
humanoid.
given a personality.
Yes. So, when it comes to the personality, because Sophie is given citizenship,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So,
With limited rights and liability.
yeah. Okay. So,
Yes.
if at all any error occurs with the humanoid, who is held liable?
The
Is it on the parent?
concerned department in the government which is responsible for Sophie as of now. So if you have read online or something, the
Yes.
Kerala police headquarters have a humanoid.
Okay.
Yeah, it sits in the reception of Kerala police headquarters, and it guides you, like, it's very pretty. It guides you
Okay.
to other offices, and you go to reception and ask her, and she'll guide you to different offices. But the problem is, if she takes up a gun and locks at you, who
Yes.
is responsible?
Who is responsible? Yes.
That is the problem.
So it will be covered under criminal liability, criminal laws,
Who
right?
will you make responsible? As of now, Sophie is not given that particular algorithm to make her own decisions. She can only operate on command.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. Thanks
Thank
a
you,
lot.
Stella. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
There is one question. Let me just see. All these challenges you said the legal system are in this basically. Yes. State is law. Law is state. As Marx said, take away the property, the role goes away, and the law goes away, the state goes away. State is essentially, beginning from the social contract, state is essentially to govern the relationship between its citizens and its natural resources. So the moment AI is creating issue, it's again the state's issue, but the affected parties would be the individuals. Am I clear, Ms. Geetika ji? Yes. Thank you, Geetika.
I think this.
How can we use AI principles more responsibility? So the option is self-regulation, self-reliance, but I'm not sure. I'm not capable of self-regulating myself on internet. Like I open one window, then I open hundreds of windows. Even if I decide not to open any other window, I just can't control myself. But as of now, AI, like, I don't know, it is more about your own ethics. How can I stop my student from submitting a dissertation written using an AI program? My only consolation is that ChatGPT can't give you complex books. how many complex questions you ask. I have tried almost all types of questions relating to particular topics in ChatGPT, and it just gives you a rehashed and reworded types of sentences, which I can easily understand because it can't use any theorist. It can't use any original thoughts. It relies totally on secondary literature, and probably most of the primary literature is in scanned form. It is not able to use its OCR session, I think, but it's self-reliant. You need to control, it's your ethics which decides how you are going to use AI. You can use AI. It's not that I won't see, I use technology very often. And when I prepare my PPT, I go to all these classes and see how can I make it more interesting, how to improve my presentation, etc. But that is also a responsible way of doing that. Or I can just copy someone else's PPT and take it. It's my unethical behavior. So as of now, there is no crime other than academic plagiarism and related copyright related or patent related issues that AI can face. The civil laws and criminal laws as of now is not able to, not able to control the relations with, control the actions of an AI. Yes, Mr. Sanjay Jha, I can totally understand disability to self-regulate. I mean, I watch these series and I decide on one episode a night and I watch at least 13 episodes a night. So I sleep at 2 o'clock and groggily wake up at 6 o'clock and go to my college. That is a policy decision, Mr. I think it's Miss Naira Dhar. So even see, even when we have technology, it doesn't result in equity. We have our constitution from 1950 till now. We have not achieved Article 14 yet. So this, what we say, presence of a technology, presence of a law, presence of provisions need not necessarily result in equity and justice. Only thing that the state can provide is everyone has an access to that technology. One of the major issue in 2020, when we went through the first lockdown, was children not having a mobile phone, not being able to be a part of the class. In every family, we had 1 or 2 phones. Father will have a phone, maximum mother will have a phone. And we had this notion that children should not have smartphones. And suddenly, a particular situation has come up saying that each child, even from LKG, should have a mobile phone or some sort of device which can connect to internet. How many of our village children were able to connect to the classes? What is the loss of human resource during that period? So balancing that would require a welfare state to step in. I put in quotes, welfare state to step in and provide the equity. The distributive justice principle will have to come up here. That is a difficult question to answer. I don't know how you have a reservation in the basis of access to technology. You are now, let us say you apply for a job. Aren't you being rated on the technological knowledge you have? Because most of the resumes for the last 10 years shows your software knowledge. Proficient in MS Word, proficient in MS Excel, proficient in MS PPT, we write that. So already we are showing our technological skills. Anyone who is from a science background would know that if you don't know analytical software, analytical tools, you're out of science now. You are not part of science anymore if you don't know how to manage your data. So access to technology is already a basis for discrimination. There is no question about it. You don't, at one point, like, if you don't know English, you were identified as a subgroup. But now if you don't know how to, even us teachers are also a bit biased in it. If a child doesn't know how to use Microsoft Word, I think at the back of my head, why? Even now she doesn't know how to use a word. So that biasness is already there, but it will increase. And that is why we have started teaching children coding from the age of 6. Luckily, the government intervened and stopped it, but otherwise it would have been very difficult. Thank you, Dr. Dundappa. Any other questions? Bismi ma'am, I'm so sorry. Again, I step over my time. This always happens.
No, ma'am. No, not at all, ma'am. So I just invite George Joseph to offer the word of thanks. George,
So,
please.
ma'am, whether I am audible, ma'am?
Yes, George. George is a first semester LLM student of School of Indian Legal Thought.
Oh, you are studying LST, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm teaching LST here. We are struggling with the LST syllabus. Such a heavy syllabus. Oh my God.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Especially respected Kavitha ma'am and all other present in this online certificate course. It was a wonderful session in this afternoon. Ma'am has very wonderfully explained the previous 21 centuries in this 90 minutes. Very wonderfully explained and conveyed to us regarding the transformation occurring in the through the technological advancement, and the transformation came on the society through technological advancement, and how the law has beautifully performed its role over the technological advancement behind this 21 centuries. Each and every transformation which has been till now, and very wonderfully explained regarding the challenges which can be raised by the AI in the coming age also. Ma'am, I very wonderfully, ma'am, I am extending my sincere words of gratitude and thanks on behalf of all of us participated in this online session, ma'am. Thank you. And
Thank
I am using this opportunity
Before we close, I would like to once again thank MG University Department of Lifelong Studies to giving me this opportunity, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank
I
you
am
so much.
also extending my words of gratitude to Bismi ma'am, who always inspire us and lead us to a new age, or transforming us to with a good insight and a good citizens. Extend all the persons, those who are behind this online session, our technical experts and all persons who led this session. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, George. And thank you, participants.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, thank